Hello, I'm Elizabeth, an obsessive backyard gardener who might be able to offer you a couple of tips.
And I'm Keith, a landscape consultant, and I'm also passionate about gardening.
The one thing we both have in common is muddy boots. Muddy Boots is proudly sponsored by Clyde Compost, the premium compost trusted by gardeners who want results. Packed with goodness, free from nasties and perfect for healthy soil and thriving plants. Visit clydecompost.com
And tell them we sent you.
It is that Q&A time of the month. We have loads of great questions to work through, so we're going to launch straight into it, Keith.
Yep.
Okay, start with, we have 2 questions from Tawanda about her sandy soil. She says, I've bought a house in the southeastern suburbs which has sandy soil and lawn. I've dug out sections of the lawn, added planter boxes filled with aged horse manure, wood chip mulch and fertiliser, and run drip irrigation for hot days. Still, the soil dries quickly. The grass takes over if I leave it for a month and summer growth is poor. Trees stall and fruit dries up, though spring growth is quite vigorous. Kikuyu grass seems to be the worst culprit. I've tried different fertilisers over the years with no fertiliser mixing, but results in summer are still disappointing. My figs, citrus, feijoa, plum and pears all struggle, while berries do okay, producing bowls full of fruit. Okay, my questions are, is there an organic way to get rid of kikuyu, and should I just keep piling on manure compost to help the soil hold moisture in summer?
Yes, you can, and that's probably the best thing. The biggest positive for any soil is carbon. So if you can get yourself hold of some lignite humate, which is available from Clyde Compost, and if you can't get hold of that, have a look for someone that just sells biochar, because
Yes.
the more carbon you've got in the soil, the more holding capacity of moisture that your soil will actually have, and that will feed it up. Wood chips, that's pretty useless because they will dry out and become hydrophobic, so they'll just shed the water off them. Manures, look, unless you're using an awful lot of manures, it's not going to help either. So compost and carbon are the 2 key components that you have for your soil. So let's answer question number 1 by an organic way of getting rid of kikuyu. One way is to smother it, so put down cardboard or put down weed gunnel over the top of it, and if you do that in where you've got hot sun beating down on it, it will just burn it out. But you need to rest it after that. The other way is to use a product called Firehawk and follow the instructions explicitly, and you will also need to do some follow-ups with Firehawk. This is an organic herbicide, and it does actually break down in the soil and feed the microbes. So this is a great, a great product to use, but it's an incredibly invasive thing. So you really need to make sure that you're getting the maximum amount of kill out of what you're going to be doing, either weed gunnel, cardboard, whatever else. But you've got to smother it or spray it with the Firehawk and knock it out that way.
And when do you spray it, Keith?
You spray it when it's full sun, and when
according to
the moon calendar. Exactly. This is all going to help. So the second question in that is, should I just keep on piling the manure and the compost? Yes, absolutely. It's all going to help to provide you with a beautiful organic soil. So compost, Monash rock dust, and applying Nutrog Go-Go juice to help populate that soil with as many billions of microbes that you can get becoming reactionary and working within that soil. That's going to just make all those things just zing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, our next question is from Anthony. We've bought a house on the hill in Rosebud on the Mornington Peninsula, in Victoria, and need some advice on what to plant next to the pool to block out the neighbours. We're thinking of planting Glauca pencil pines after seeing them on a recent trip to Italy. The challenges that we have are shading from the fence, Poor soil, a narrow space for planting, and a need for height without width. Are pencil pines the right idea? And now Anthony actually sent through a video and photos, and Keith actually went that extra mile with this one, visiting Anthony at his home to have a look at the area.
Well, he was local. He was Mornington Peninsula, and that was pretty local. So when I went down there, the first thing I noticed was the type of soil that he has there, which is an incredibly reactive soil that dries out, cracks. So it needs enormous amounts of organic matter mixed into that soil. So I suggest that he uses the Clyde compost, and with that lignite humate mixed into it, so 30% mix of that into that particular soil, and also to really sort of marry his questions on the types of plants that we were looking at. Pencil pines might look fabulous in Italy, but they're not going to do the job here. They're going to be incredibly slow because this is behind a fence, and it's the actual garden bed width was only 1 metre wide. So I suggested that he puts all these amendments into the soil, including getting some myco gold, some rock dust, and all that sort of stuff, and then mix it all through, and then cover the whole thing with granitic sand. Now, one of the things he came back to me was that when he had a pH test done on the granitic sand, it was coming in at 8, and his soil was also quite alkaline, so it was an 8 as well. Monash rock dust is a pH of about 6 and a bit, so that's going to pull it down. The lignite humate's got a pH of around 5.5, so that's going to pull that down. And because the Clyde compost is neutral, it's not going to have any detrimental effect on that soil as well. So the plants that I recommended, Anthony, the exact same plants that I recommended to give you privacy in your property here, plants that will fit those conditions. So it's Syzygium astral, straight and narrow, and it'll get no more. Yeah, it's a form of lily pilly, a hybridized form that gets no wider than 1 metre, but it'll get to 6 metres tall.
Very quickly.
With all those amendments put into that soil.
Yep.
So it's a fabulous plant for those sorts of conditions. It had a lot of the inherent problems of lily pillies bred out of it, which are the psyllids and bugs and beetles that likes to chew it. It's a hybridized form, and that works really, really effectively.
It's a good,
so that was
plant.
Just absolutely fantastic for him.
Well done. Sandy is next. I am in the process of creating quite a large country garden. I planted Eleagdus, which was recommended to me as a hardy hedge option for the swimming pool area. The hedge looks lush and green during the cooler months, but I've found that as soon as the weather turns warm, the leaf starts to curl and the hedge looks dead, even when I have the drippers going on them every day. Other people in similar situations seem to have a healthy, thriving hedge all year round. Unfortunately, given that it is for the pool area, I would like it to be lush in summer as well and would really like to keep it, as it was such a huge planting job. Is there any way to improve it, or do I need to cut my losses and replace with a different hedge? And Sandy did send through some photos.
Yeah, and then when she'd sent me through the photos, I actually got in contact with Sandy and said, listen, I want you to provide me with another photo, a close-up of the leaves with the leaf turned upside down so it's facing the sun, and then get me a photograph of that. So she did that, and the first thing that I identified as being the root cause of her problem was the two-spotted mite, or otherwise known as red spider mite, because it's a reddy colour. And these little fellas breed and multiply like you wouldn't believe, and they will just suck all the goodness on the underside of the leaf. So that's then causing those leaves to curl, because all the goodness is coming out from the bottom side, so the top just curls over and shrivels up, and it looks like it's been burnt or it's just a horrible looking leaf. So I told her that the best thing to do is to apply Eco Neem during either the early morning or the late afternoon. Not Eco Neem with oil, but just straight out Eco Neem, and to apply that of 12 mil of Eco Neem into 5 litres. And then I suggested that in order to correct any imbalances that are in the soil, because if a plant can't fight off pest and disease, then there's a problem in its makeup, and probably a makeup in the soil. So I also suggest that you use Nutrog's Populate and to go and apply that. And if she could get hold of a fork or a prepping fork, like FD Ryan's prepping fork, go down around the actual drip line of that plant, and then apply the populate, and then get some Nutrog Gigantic and apply that as well. And that will just perk that plant up like you wouldn't believe. So
Have you had an update?
I haven't had an update just
we need
yet.
An update, Sandy,
Not
to
just
see
yet.
how it's
We're
going.
waiting on that.
Oh, probably a bit early. Okay, now for a question from Jasmine. I'm in southeast Queensland and I'm renting a place with about 50 square metres of grass. I'm trying to regrow the lawn, but I'm really struggling with it. We have 3 dogs who love running around on it, so the grass takes quite a beating. The soil is mostly heavy clay and really stiff. I've added gypsum, compost, lawn underlay and top dressing several times, but the grass still only seems to grow in patches. I'd love some advice on how to bring it back to life.
First suggestion I made here was using a prepping fork. So even though it's clay, if you can pour water on it and then slowly work that prepping fork in so you're getting the moisture down, deep down, and then drawing the roots down with it as well. I then suggested that she used Rooster Booster as a fertiliser, and because she's got 3 dogs and it's 50 square metres, that's an awful lot of heavy use on that particular area with active dogs or active children, even for that matter. So the other suggestion I made was that after she's done that, is to raise the height of her mower up as high as she can get it to go. And the way to explain that is if you can think of the most turf-intensive wearing in any situation, it's a racetrack with horses. And if you see the racetrack and the horses are running around there and they're just pulling out clumps of turf. But if you actually got close enough and had a look at that turf, you would find that turf was probably 4 to 5 inches long. And that's what makes that green all the time. And that's how that grass reestablishes itself so quickly, is by the regular feeding of that grass and the height of the mower. Right. So if there's more height, there's more area for the dogs to run the turf over, and a regular feeding and regular aeration, because it's a heavy soil, so it's going to compact up and it's just going to starve itself to death.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the best thing you can do.
Good luck to Jasmine. I wonder how that's going too. We need feedback. We need updates on these things so we know if your fantastic advice has actually worked. Don't we?
Exactly.
Okay, now it's time to take a quick pause to hear from the people who help keep Muddy Boots growing. Healthy soil means healthy plants, and that's where Biostim's Myco Gold comes in. This powerful blend of beneficial fungi and bacteria works underground to extend root systems, helping plants take up more water and nutrients, fight off pests and disease, and cope better during periods of drought. Just add Myco Gold when planting or mix it in around your established plants, and you'll be setting your garden up for success. Discover more at biostim.com.au.
And that is just one of the most brilliant products. It's on every one of my design specifications, Biostim.
And really the only place to get it is from the
info
website,
at biostim.com.
biostim.com.au.
Yep.
Our next 2 questions are from Maria, and this is a fantastic advertisement for Muddy Boots and all of our favourite gardening product suppliers. Maria says, I really enjoy listening to the podcast and play the shows over and over and over again. The difference in my raised beds is remarkable since I started using the Monash Rockdust, the Clyde compost, the Nutrog Hooflung Dung as well. The beds were dry and lifeless before, but now there are so many worms present. I've found Firehawk to be very successful in killing my weeds and have also been dipping the roots of my seedlings into Biostim's Myco Gold. I feel I'm going to have the best spring, summer ever, and I can't wait. My first question is there a more economical way to buy the Hooflung Dung other than buy the bag from Bunnings?
Not really, but I would suggest that if you could get maybe involved with some other people and get enough to fill a pallet and go direct to Nutrog, make a call. The worst thing you can hear from that call is no. But if you're buying bulk product that can be shifted or delivered to you, then that's the only way I can suggest you do it. Hooflung Dung it's a fabulous product. I use it all the time in my beds. I don't get a discount. I buy mine from Bunnings as well.
Yeah.
But you've got to ask the question, if you're using that much of a volume and you can get a couple of other people involved, it's always best to ask the question.
Yeah,
It's
you
as
never
simple
know
as
if you
that.
don't ask. But no,
That's
we
right.
don't. We'd like to do that too. We'd like a big bulk amount, but we can't get it. Okay, the second question from Maria is, can you please tell me where I can purchase box netting to cover my fruit trees before those damn possums and cockies come and consume the fruit on the trees?
Yes, Maria, look, I've got 6 of these box nettings with the frames to suit. I would strongly suggest that you go to Forestry Tools website and place an order there. The netting is 2.4 metres square by 2.8 metres tall, so it's a great big net. The netting is fixed on a flexi frame, and the actual code for that is RSV 24. I have these frames kept permanently over my vegetable beds, and I'm also using them now to cover all my fruit trees and my tomatoes, because we're going to get fruit fly down here. It's a dandenong at the moment, and it's making its way down
Very
here.
close.
And these are the only nets that are effective against possums and rainbow laura creeps. So best wishes with that one, but yeah, get onto Forestry Tools. I recently had a neighbour purchase one, the frame, which you can use year in, year out. The nets are of fabulous quality. They're better than the white ones. These are the black nets. The whole thing comes out to $275 from Forestry Tools. So, and that's a brilliant price for something you're going to keep on using forever.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Georgia has the next question for Keith. A friend told me that you helped cure her hedge problem and suggested I ask you guys about my London plane tree. I think that's what it is. We have this beautiful big tree that is probably 15 years old, and only last year the leaves didn't seem to be growing evenly. Some areas were nice and thick, then other branches had hardly any leaves. I was hoping it was just having a moment and would bounce back this year, but the same thing seems to be happening. I'm wondering if you have any idea what might be wrong or how I could possibly fix it.
When you have a tree that is exhibiting fine growth on one side but poor growth on the other, you've really got to think about the root system. So the root system that is supplying that poor half is not getting access to the same goodness, the same soil conditions as the opposite side. So therefore, my suggestion is to get yourself a prepping fork and to go around that drip line on the bad side and get those holes deep down into the soil. And then I would suggest you use a sea sol product. So don't put a fertiliser on at this particular stage. Use sea sol, because that's going to stimulate root tip growth on those roots. Once it gets the access to the air and the moisture down through the holes you've just put through. And I would also suggest that you use a wetting agent, because this could be one of the problems. There could be compaction happening on one side. It might be near a driveway or a pathway or something else. So use a wetting agent to put that down. And sea sol actually make a very, very good organic form of a wetting agent. Mm-hmm. So apply that first, and then apply your wetting agent. And then it would be a matter of mulching and pruning just to sort of help to stimulate that. But don't go applying any fertilisers until you see that you're getting some regrowth happening, and then you might use some liquid fertiliser of some sort after that, something like Charlie Carp or whatever, to give it an additional feed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now we have a question from Kirsty. She says, I have a bad case of whitefly in my garden. How can I control it now that it is very hot here? We have had a few 40-degree days here already in Dirranbandy in Queensland. I know of the neem oil and have used that, but don't want to use it with this extreme heat. I've also heard of spraying with the hose, but I'm on salty bore water, so this restricts us a little. Could you use rainwater in a watering can for the same effect?
No, you can't, because the idea of spraying them is to blow them off, and that's where the strong pressure of a hose. Look, my suggestion is to still use the Eco Neem, but use it early morning and late afternoon. So there's no chance of it actually causing a problem. And if you do it early in the morning or late in the afternoon, and you do it on a regular basis, that Eco Neem will become somewhat systemic, and it will really knock those sap sucking little little mongrels off.
So weekly basis? Or?
Yeah, I do it on a weekly basis. I don't advocate using the eco oil because that will burn. But the eco Neem's a different setup. It's suspended in sesame oil, so it's nowhere near as burning as the others. Another option would be using an insecticidal spray, something like Natura-Soap, which you can order that online. And that's probably one of the most inexpensive ways of doing it. And the other alternative is a quick knockdown spray, and that's using something like pyrethrum. Pyrethrum is very difficult to get at the moment. Bunnings are pushing you out of getting the concentrate. They're trying to push you to the RTUs, the ready to use bottles. So you've got an awful lot of water in that container. Whereas the concentrate, you get a 100 ml bottle and 50 ml is used in 5 litres. So it's 10 ml for 5 litres. It's an expensive way of applying it, but it's the best way of applying it. I think we've just got to keep the pressure on Bunnings to start restocking some of these concentrates rather than going for this bloody landfill rubbish of RTUs.
Why are they doing that?
Because they make more buck out of it. Money.
Okay, so Tanya has our last two questions for this Q&A episode. Question number 1 from Tanya is, where can I purchase Monash Rockdust, and is it actually called mineral rock dust? To buy it online, I've noticed that the postage is $65.
Yeah, it's expensive because it's incredibly heavy. That's the problem. And the best way that I can suggest you actually do it is when you go online to Monash Organics and order either their bucket or the 12-kilo bag, in order to make it a little softer for you for purchasing. Use my name, Keith, with 25 after it, and that will give you a 25% discount off that product, which will go a long way to paying for that postage. There's nothing else on the market that is the same as Monash Rockdust. I've seen lots of other products that are coming on the market. They are not all natural like the Monash products. They've got other fillers and additives that have been put in there, and they still don't contain the same amount of minerals and trace elements that Monash Rock does. So use my code 25, Keith25, when you get on site, and that'll go a long way to paying for that.
Great. Now for question number 2 from Tanya. I'm trying to get my soil, which is currently sitting at a pH of 6, up to a pH of 7. And I've just planted some seeds that a friend gave me, but after listening to your podcast, I think I planted them into the bed a little early. It's 20 degrees here today, but still quite cool at night. Can I just fork around the bed and sprinkle the rock dust, then top up with who-flung dung and go-go juice? My daughter's wedding is in 2 weeks and it's coming along slowly.
Well, you're doing absolutely everything correct. So just keep doing what you're doing. You might find that if you have a little look at how you're feeding and fertilising and so forth, according to the moon calendar, you might get far better results. I can't recommend following that process highly enough, because it just makes your effort in the garden just so much more rewarding. Moon calendar gardening, that's the best way to do it.
Fabulous. That is it for another Q&A segment. Thank you again for your fabulous questions, and please keep sending them in. We do love them. Before we finish, we need to announce the winner of this month's Q&A prize from the Plant Runner. And this month it has to go to Maria, who I think we can safely say is Muddy Boots' #1 student. She's taken all of Keith's advice on board regarding which products to use and how to use them, and her garden is now reaping the rewards. Congratulations, Maria. We will be in contact with you very shortly regarding your prize. And a massive thanks again to the team at The Plant Runner for supplying our monthly Q&A prize. Don't forget to go to theplantrunner.com for all your indoor plant care needs. And happy gardening!
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to Muddy Boots. For more information on today's podcast, please go to muddyboots.net.au, and happy gardening.